Hello, this is the final part for our Reddit project. And so far we did everything up to this point. So if you haven't seen the videos quite yet, all the videos thus far is inside of React as views, inside of this lecture video and content here. So make sure that you watch the ones that you haven't watched yet. There are a few parts already. The ones that we did to create the comments for the models and the controllers are going to be right here. And then when we connect the React router, that will also be right here. The next video will be the one right under there. So that would be where you can find this current video. So be sure to check those out if you haven't watched them already, because we did a lot of stuff already inside of those that we are continuing on with this. Like always, if you are going to be watching this, make sure that you try it out before you actually kind of double check things with what I am doing here. So we already, at this point, created the models, controllers, routes, and filled them all out like it should be for the comments. And we are now moving on into the views of each of the CRUD actions. So that's kind of what we are going to be doing next. But first, go ahead and try to apply what you learned so far and see if you can kind of do it yourself, and then double check with what it is that I'm doing here. The comment should be very similar to the topics because there is a parent-child relationship and the comment is the child of the topics. So a lot of the views and how we are doing things will look very similar. So let's go ahead and get started. We are then going to start both of our servers. Inside of our client server, it will be a yarn start. Inside of our main server, it would be a bundle exec rails s-p 3001. So now at this point, we should have different pages. And then with each of the pages for the sub, if you want to go to the topics page, you have to choose what type of sub it is that you want to go to topics to. So for example, for the subreddit of cooking, we can go to the topics of all of those different ones for cooking. And these are the topics here. So we are going to do the same thing is having the other model be on its own page. So that is what we'll be doing here to create that route. And then we'll go ahead and knock out all of the CRUD actions for that particular route for comments. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And we already did everything in the back end. So this would be inside of the front end. So to start off, to make a route, we need to go ahead and create something similar of what we have here for the topics. So let's go ahead and do that. Zoom out just a bit so you can see everything. So with the route, we are going to go ahead and have a path of the topic ID here. And that will go ahead and only show the comments that belong to a particular topic. So that's why we are including the ID of the parent here. And then we'll call it comments here. Again, this is going to be whatever makes sense. You can have it whatever you want, but we'll have it whatever makes sense. The main thing is to have the parent's ID and then somewhere to go ahead and go into the individual comments like so. This won't be created quite yet, but we'll be having a component called comments, and that's where we'll be defining all of our CRUD actions, is this comments one here. So let's go ahead and import that here. And this would be called comments from /components/ we'll be creating a new folder, lowercase comments. And then the file name that we are doing is capital C comments plural. So this is inside of our app.js. We just define that link to this particular component for comments. So this one here and this one here. So then let's go ahead and create that. We are creating a new folder inside of components. And this one we are calling comments. Make sure it is lowercase so we don't have any errors later on. And then let's create that file of comments plural JS. So this is going to require us to have a few elements from our React library. That will be use state as well as use effect. And then we are going to have that be coming from React we also need to import Axios, which is how we are communicating from front end to back end. That one is also from Axios. And then we can go ahead and create our comments here. And we won't be having anything in the props because everything would be inside of its own page. So we'll go ahead and utilize that to grab information from the parent if we need to. For now, I'll just have it say all comments in the H1. So all comments. That works. And then export default comments. So this is what we'll have for now. We won't have a place for us to create it or to display it quite yet until we do the next step of linking it up from the parent. So let's go ahead and do that part next, is to link this page and to navigate into the page. So to navigate into the page, I'm going to have a link right here after the delete button to link into the comments. So that's what we are going to be doing. So inside of the topics, that will be in the topic show. It will be right under this button right here. I first need to import my link tag. So import link from React Router DOM. And I only want to import the ID. So I am going to go ahead and do the link here and going to a particular path. So this will require me to go ahead and do some string interpolation of the ID of the parent here. So for me to go to a particular page, I need to match the path that I defined here. So if I want to go to the comments page of a particular topic, then I need to pass in the topic's ID and then comments / comments. So then to go ahead and grab the ID, I can just grab ID here because this ID is the ID of the topic. And then / comments like so. If you want to pass in other items, like if you want to pass in the title, description, or anything else, you would have to use the state. That's what we are doing inside of the sub here. So if you want to pass in other information from the parent, then you would use state. If not, then you're all right from just doing this too, and you should be good. Okay, after that, we are going to go back into comments. So let me scroll from top to bottom for you. So this is the line I added on top from the topic.js and these 3 lines here. So now inside of the comments, I need to go ahead and import my use params. The reason why I'm doing use params is that if I want to grab information from the URL, it would be a use params. If I'm passing in additional information from my particular topics, but it is like the title and description, then I would use a use location. So that's kind of the difference of what we are going to be using depending on what it is we're passing in. So here I'm just passing in the ID. So I am just using a use params, but if you want to see what we did for the use location, you can check out what we did for the sub and the topics plural here. Yeah, there we go. So that is the pattern we're following here. But in our case, we just need to do the URL. So that's why we're doing it this one. We only need to choose one of them. We don't need to do both. So let's go ahead and do the use params. So I'm just going to call it params here. And this is going to be a variable that is going to call the use params function from React Router DOM. And with that, I am going to go ahead and grab the topic ID from my use params. So with this will go ahead and grab the topic ID, which is what is being passed through in the URL for the particular path name. So let me show you what I mean here. So you kind of hover, you can see it below here on the lower left-hand corner. You can see that it's / the ID of the topic / comments. Same thing here, / ID of the topic / comments. And that's what we want. So that way it will go ahead and only grab the comments for ice cream or only grab the comments for the barbecue. We're not displaying everything of all of the comments because that's kind of not relevant data. We're only going to be grabbing it depending on the parent, right? So only grab it like so. So then that should go ahead and work here. And then we can go ahead and get started with our pattern. So let's go ahead and let me bring in the reference sheet, bring it in side by side. I'm actually going to close some of these here because we are past this point here. We already created the React here, and then we are going to be working with this here. So we already did the use effect at the top import as well as the axials import. So let's go ahead and do this part here of following this pattern. So then we need to do a const, the model name plural, which is comments, and then set comments. So we're just following patterns here. And then this would be a use state of a empty array. So this is where we are going to be storing all the comments from the backend. It's this particular use state here. Then let's go ahead and do this use effect. And what this use effect does is the index action is that before we go ahead and render anything onto the screen, we are going to grab all of the information that we are doing for the comment. So that's what we are doing. And the reason why we have it in a use effect is that what use effect does is that it is a callback function, meaning that it runs logic at a particular time. And at this time, I want to do it before I am displaying stuff. So I need to grab the information before I display stuff, or else you'll be displaying stuff of something you don't have already. That's called a race condition. You're using something that you don't have quite yet. So putting it in a use effect will kind of alleviate that. It will kind of take care of that before, make sure you have that before we actually use it there. So then we need to go ahead and figure out the URL pattern for the index for the comments. There we go. So it looks like this is going to be the comments index. That is what we are going to be handling. And this is the URL pattern. This is the pattern for a parent. So because we are dealing with the parent-child relationship, just know that this part right here, we need to go ahead and match it up with what we have inside of our routes. And in the most cases, we need to include the parent's ID regardless. So that's why we're following this more than the pattern here, but still does the exact same thing. So then this will require me to have a backtick so we can interpolate the topic ID because it is looking for the topic ID here. And don't worry that this is underscore and this is camel case. That doesn't really matter because both of them are placeholders for the actual value. So it can be called whatever it is that they call it. It's just representing, that's what it needs to represent is the topic ID, no matter how it is that we're writing it. The reason why it's just slightly different is that this one is written in Rails and this one's written in JavaScript, and they have different best practices of conventions of naming things. So when we are naming things in Ruby on Rails, it will be underscore. When we're naming things here, there will be camel case. So that's why it doesn't match up, but the representation of what it is, that should match up. So then let's go ahead and interpolate the topic ID like so, and then we are going to do comments here. And that will go ahead and grab all of the comments from our database and hit the API call of what we are doing for our index. And then we'll do our then with the response coming back. We are then going to do a set comments and then res.data. So when we are grabbing it from the back end, we are storing that into our front end. And here is our catch here. This won't display anything quite yet because again, we don't have any initial comments inside of our database. Later on, I'll show you how to put some initial data and then we can work on the index. But let's go ahead and kind of come back to this and work on the add functionality. So let's do that part next create a form for it, and then we can go ahead and get some of the items started with the next CRUD action. So we'll come back to index and show. We need to add some data before we can go ahead and show it. So then here it will be add comment function that we have, and then this would be the comment. And then here we are going to go ahead and do axials call, and I want to do a create here. So if I want to do create, we'll go into our routes, match this up with the URL pattern that we have, and then it is dot post, and it will be /API/topics, and then we interpolate the topic ID. So topic ID, and then /comments here. And then continue to follow along with the pattern. It looks like I had to put a comma here, and then it would be your comment of what it is that you are creating. So that will go ahead and pass it into our private params into the right format of what it is that we're trying to do. And then we are going to handle our promise handling, meaning that when we are going to add, what happens when we are adding successfully. So when we are adding successfully, we are going to go ahead and I thought I already changed this. Let me go ahead and refresh this. There we go. Yeah, I did change this. So here is the correct pattern. So if you do have it open somewhere else, refresh it because that one should be the most up-to-date one. This one will be set comments here. And then we are spreading out comments. So that will go ahead and have all the ones that we are storing. And then we are going to go ahead and add in the one that we just created. We'll do the same catch for now. And that should go ahead and help us out there. So that will go ahead and create the function for the add functionality. We just need to implement that inside of our project. And we're going to go ahead and import a form for us to use to do that. So let's go ahead and import a comment form from the exact same folder. We'll call it comment form. And then with this comment form, I'm going to go ahead and display it here and then pass in this add function as props. So that way it will have the ability to use that function when I need to within my form. So let me go ahead and scroll top to bottom for you all. Feel free to pause it when you need. And then we'll go ahead and go into our form. So let's go into our comment form. I am going to call this comment form.js inside of our comments folder. So that's what I have here. Then I am going to import my use state. And then this is coming from React. Let's go ahead and define our comment form. And with this comment form, I am passing in the add comment, which is this prop that I have inside of here. And then I am going to go ahead and return for now, just an empty pair of fragments and an export default comment form. So then we need to go ahead and start to do our form, and all our forms would look a little bit similar to each other. So if you compare this form with the topics form, as well as your sub form, they would look very similar. The only thing different is that they obviously have different fields because we're dealing with different models. So in our case, we have the sub form that only has a title. So that's why it will look similar to this. And then the topics form has a title and the description. So that's what we have here. So let's go ahead and see what we have in our DB schema for the comment. Looks like the author and the body is what comment has. So that's what we are storing within our comment. So let's go ahead and have that here. So it will be const comment. And then we are doing a set comment here. And with this, we are going to use a use state to go ahead and store an object of what it is that we are creating. So since we are creating a comment object, then it should have the fields matching of what we are storing within our database. So that will be author and body. So again, This would change depending on your object of what it is you're working with. So this one will be author, default of string. This one will be body, default of string as well. Come back to that. So now we can go ahead and have this one say create, or you can say add comment, whatever makes more sense. And then we are going to build out our form. With our form, when we do a on submit, that will go ahead and run this handle submit function. And with this handle submit function, I am going to create that here. So handle submit, passing in the value of the event. That's what E is the event. And we'll slowly fill that out in a sec. So now for each of these fields, you need to have it's their own input. So because I have two fields here, then I have two different inputs. And then they also will require us to include what data type it is. So if it's a Boolean, we would use a checkbox. If it's a text area, if it's type text, we'll use a text area. If it's a string, we'll use the input box. If it's an integer or a float, then we would need to change the input box to also only accept numbers. So you'll get to see that in other examples here. So let's go ahead and do the author first. So I'll just go ahead and do this part. And we'll also have a label. That one is just for more readability. So this way they know that this is for the author that they are typing in. And the three things that it would need is the name, the value, and the on change. So that's what we would need to have by default. And then the other stuff will be required. That is a good thing to have. And then a placeholder would be another good thing to have as well. So those aren't really necessary for this to work, but these three things are. So then the name will represent what we are using this input for. This one is for the author. This one is for where we are storing it. So that will be comment.author. Then the on change here, that will require the event of what we are typing in the input. And this will go ahead and do a set comment of everything that was already stored within the comment. That's what the spread operator does, is it will spread out all the content, but we are changing the author to be e.target.value. So e.target.value is what we are doing to take whatever they are typing inside of this box, and we're storing it within our individual state here that we are having. So here is the comments for ice cream. And then we can open up our dev tools a bit. Let me zoom in some more so you can see this a little bit better. And then I'm just going to go to my form. So let me go to my comment form. So let's click on that. And then here you can see the prop of add comment. And here, pay attention to this author because that's the one that I already have. Whatever I type in here of Dr. Seuss, you can see that it will update it within my state. So if you do this correctly, whatever you type in would also store within your state here. If there is a way where, or an error that it doesn't do that, or it doesn't allow you to type, that means that you messed something up on this particular line of code, or you're not referencing something correctly. So double check on this, make sure that the pattern is the same so you can have that working. That will handle for author. We need one more for body, and body is a type text. So we need to have a different input field of text area. And with the text area, it will be a opening and closing tag. It's not self-closing like the input. And then this one will also require these fields as well. So it will be name. This one will be body, value. This one would be comment.body. On change equals the event again of doing a set comment. And we are then going to go ahead and do this. And then it will be comment again. And then the body in this case of e.target.value. So that's what this will do. And we'll also have it required as well. And then let's also give it a label as well here for the body. Okay. You can have placeholder if you want. I'll just have it as is. We don't need that. And then I am going to have a button here of submit. You have it say submit or create, whatever makes sense. This one will be a type of submit. Okay, so that will go ahead and store what we typed in into our state if we did that correctly within our input. So that is that there. So now we need to fill out the handle submit of what happens when we submit. First thing we need to do is to prevent default from happening, because right now if I do submit, it will go ahead and reload the page and have all my content within my URL. I don't want that. I wanted to not do that, so that's why we are doing the e.prevent default. The next thing I want to do is that I am doing this add comment here. So that add comment is coming from comments. That is this function right here. That will go ahead and add it within our backend. So match up into our routes. It'll run within our controller, double check everything to make sure everything is in the parameters. If it's correct, then we are given the object back. And then with the object back, we are adding it in the front end as well. And then this one, it will give us errors if it's not working. So let's go ahead and do that here. So that would work. And then at the end, we are going to do this use comments here. And that will go ahead and it will clear out the form once we are submitting the form. So here it is from start to beginning within our comment form. And then let's go ahead and test this out and make sure that you are testing as you are going. I do need this open. Right now, if this works, let me go to my comments plural. If this works inside of my comments plural component, inside of this empty state, that's where I'm storing all the comments that I have within my state here. Right now, I don't have any comments, but if this works, it should go ahead and create it in the back end, which will then also create it in the front end. So it looks like that created something and looks like it did work. Awesome, awesome. And that looks good. Let me go ahead and create a few more. This is yummy. And then I'll do one more Jill. Really good for hot days like today. Awesome. So we should have multiple objects of comments now. Sweet. Right now, we are only displaying that within our state. We need to also display that here. So that way we can actually see what the comments are. So let's go ahead and go back into our comments plural, and then we'll go ahead and continue on with our index and our show. So then this would be comments list from / comment list. This is what we'll be creating in a sec. And with our comment list, I am going to go ahead and display that here. And what I am going to pass in is the comments of what it is that I'm storing within my front end. And that will go ahead and also grab the ones that I'm grabbing from the backend. So let's go ahead and put that here. I'll put it in another line because we'll be passing in other stuff as well of comments. Okay, so this will give us an error because we don't have that component yet. So here is the comments plural. So this is where you can find it, this breadcrumbs here. So let me scroll up and down for you all. I only added this here and then this down here. So let's go ahead and create that component. I am then going to do our component list here, or not component, comment list. And then we are going to go ahead and create that. So that would be a const comment list. And we are passing in this prop that we called it comments. So let's go ahead and call comments here. And from there, I am going to go ahead and do a parentheses return because I don't need to run any functions or anything. So I am going to go ahead and display a map version of all my comments. So it'll be comments.map. What I am going to map it through is C. And I am actually going to export default before I forget. Export default comment list. And I'm actually going to create another component here called comment. So that will display a single comment that will handle a my show. So this will just be called comment singular. You can call it comment show if that makes more sense to you. I'll just call it comment singular. And that is what I will display here, self-closing tag for components. And I need to pass in some props. The first thing I need to pass in is the key. This will help React distinguish when we are mapping through items of which unique identifier of each of our comments is. And then the next thing that we will have is that we'll spread out the content of our comments. So this would be like author equals C dot author body equals C dot body. So instead of doing all that, I can just do this and all in one line. So here is our comment list. This one is a shorter component. And then inside of our folder, let's go ahead and create the comment here. And we are going to do a const of comment. And with this, we are going to go ahead and import the content of what this component will have as props. So we'll come back to that real quick because let's say that you don't know what we are passing in, and I'll show you where you can find that information out. And this will be default comment like so. And then right now, if we go into our component and type in comment singular, this is the one that we are referring to. Here are all of the props that we have for us. Is the author, body, ID, topic ID, create, updated. I only need the ID, author, and body. So that's what I need to display and do other CRUD actions with. So let's go ahead and bring that in of ID, author, and then body. So then we can go ahead and we can kind of write out our display with JSX here. So I can have it say comment written by, and then we can have it show the author's name. And then after that, we can go ahead and display the comment body here in the p tag. And that will go ahead and let me stop this. And that is what we display here. So you can do that. You can say author colon, and then it'll show the author, or you can just display the author as well as the body. So yeah, that's really up to you or up to whatever we are wanting to display and how we display it. But this is how we can grab the author and the body. Sweet. So here is the comment.js. That's all we need for the show and the index. Okay, so that will take care of 3 out of our 5 CRUD actions. Now let's go ahead and do our edit and then our delete or destroy. So let's go ahead and create that function, and we need to do it at this level because we need to have it in a way where we can pass it to multiple levels. So that's why we are doing it in this comments, because comment will display the comment form and the comment list. So that way I can pass it down during those levels. If I were to do it within the form or within the list, it'll still work. But then when I am storing that value, then it won't work because the storage is inside of our comment here. So we are going to go ahead and do our pattern here. I'll open this up again for us to follow this. And let me do our update comment equals to our ID and our comment. And with this, we are doing an Axios dot. Let's double check that. I want to do our update. Let's do this one. Make sure it's the put one. Patchworks too, but we'll be using the put. And that one will be a backtick of /API/topics. That's what we have here. We are interpolating the topic ID. So topic ID. And then we are doing comments, and then we need to interpolate the ID of the comments, which is ID here, which is this value we're passing in. And then I'll go ahead and pass in the comment as an object that we have here. And going back to the pattern, we can fill that out a little bit more. So we are doing our then with the response coming back. We are doing a let new updated comments equals comments.map. And then we are doing m like so as we are mapping through it. If m.id is equal to the ID of the one that we are updating, then we are returning the new updated value coming from our database, our backend as well, or else we will just continue to map through the items. Then after this, we are going to go ahead and do our set comments here, and then have that be our variable that we just created. So this one has a lot of syntax, so make sure that you match it with what you see here. So make sure that you do it in the right places and you're closing out all of your parentheses and curly braces and everything, so that would work. Doing the same catch for now. So then let's go ahead and do this particular function inside of our list. So let's pass that down one more level, which is our update comment here. So let me scroll from top to bottom. Well, I didn't do anything. The only thing I added inside of this file, which is this here, and then this here. So then because I'm passing it to my comment list, let's pass it down one more level inside of here into the comment. So then I'll do the update comment here, pass it down in here. So then this is why I add in the comment list. And then inside of my comment, I am going to also pass it here as well. So then for me to use this, I need to go ahead and write out some logic of how I am displaying the form. So I need to bring in my use state here because I need to store if I am showing the form or not. So then this will be from React. I also need to import my comment form because I'm reusing the same form for both my update as well as my create. And we need to make some changes so it'll work accordingly. So with our comment form, what we need is that we are doing some conditional rendering. So if we are editing or not, then we'll do a set edit. And then we are then going to go ahead and store that and initially have it be false. So what we are going to do is that we are going to do a ternary operator, which is a one-liner of a if else. So if we are editing, if editing is true, then we need to display the form here. Also a cancel button to close out our individual form so it won't show anymore if we do decide not to edit. Else we are then going to go ahead and do our other one of what happens when we're not editing. If we're not editing, let's go ahead and show a button to go ahead and do our edit as well as our delete. We'll do our delete a little bit later, but we can just spell it out for now. To get this cancel and edit button to work, we need to do a on-click event handler of what we are going to be doing. This one will go ahead and do a set edit. And with this set edit, let's make sure that we are calling it as an anonymous function. So this only works when we click on this button. We are going to change it to true. So then this will show the form if I go ahead and click on the edit. The opposite of cancel is going to be false, like so. So we're doing a similar thing, but this will close out the form. So this will open, this will close the form. So then if we go ahead and do that, it will open. If we do cancel, it will close. Nice. Right now, we need to pass in information so it knows that it is the edit form. So the information we need to pass in is the ID. So we know which one we are editing. That one will be ID here. We also need to go ahead and pass in the fields that this object has. So that will be author as well as our body. So that way we can pre-populate the form inside of our form component. The other thing that we need is our function to update. That's this update function. And then our set edit to close out the form. These items here, again, these are what the object has. This one is for update. This one is also for update. But depending on how you're doing your update, this may or may not be needed because right now I'm just having a button to show it. But sometimes you might always show the form. Sometimes it might be on a different page. Sometimes it might be in a pop-up. So this may or may not be here, but these things are. So let's go ahead and go through there. So I added this here, this here, this here, and then this logic right here. So now we need to go into the comment form and bring in all of those props if we are using them. So then here we have the ID. We also have the author that we are bringing in the body. So essentially all of the content that that object has. We also have our update comment as well as our set edit. And then let's also import our use effect because what I want to do is that before I display the form, I want to pre-populate the form. So inside of here, let's go ahead and use our use effect. And with this use effect, I am going to go ahead and bring in the syntax. And I need to see if we're editing. Because again, I'm using this form in different ways. I'm using it for the add and the update. To see if I'm doing the update, I'm passing in the prop of ID, this prop here. Because this ID prop, I'm only passing it in when I'm editing. So that's this particular prop here. If I'm not editing inside of here, it will just pass in the prop of add. That's the only prop that I have if it is not editing. So if I'm passing in the ID, that means I am editing. So that's why it's the if ID here. So if ID, then I am going to go ahead and set the comment to be the author of the author that we have from our props that we're passing in. So when we are calling the form, we're passing in the author as well as the body. So then we'll do that as well as the body here. And that would be body. But in our new ES6, we don't need to display that if it is the exact same name. So we can just say author body. So this will pre-populate the form. So to know that if this is working, you can go ahead and open this up and it should pre-populate both the author and body for each of your comments here. So this is Bob, this is Yummy, this is Jill, this is what we're having there. So that's why I have so far is I imported the use effect. I also added some stuff into line 3, and then this is what I did to pre-populate the form. One more change I need to do is that I need to go ahead and do a what happens when I submit the form. So I'm running the same logic here as if I am updating, I'm passing in the ID, else I am doing a create. So let's bring this in here of the add comment, because if I'm not editing, that means that I'm creating. So then I am going to go ahead and do a update comment of your comment object here, as well as the ID of which comment it is that we are updating. So make sure that you have both of those. If you just have comment, that's not correct because you're not, that would be in the wrong parameters. Because this one is referencing all the way inside of here. This requires us to pass in the ID of the comment as well as the comment object of the one that we are updating. So when we're calling this form, we need to pass in both of these parameters. So ID and comment. Last thing that we need to do is to do a set edit to be false. So that way it will close out the form because we're having it be open and close depending on if we press these buttons or not. So when we're done submitting the form, we'll change it to false so it won't show the form anymore. So that's all that we need to do for the handle submit. The last place that we would need to change things is here when we are saying create comment. And what we are going to do is that if we are passing in the ID, we are going to be doing an edit. If not, we are doing a create. So here is the form. So make sure that you have that. This here, this use effect. We did some changes here in the handle submit. And then I also did this for the H1. So I'll scroll top to bottom for you. Okay. So then let's go ahead and try it out, make sure it works. So here, let's go ahead and try to edit this one. I agree, submit it. And if it does change automatically, that means that it did work both front end and back end. And then you can also check in your server, see if it did do an update. And it did do an update as well. Awesome, so that works. We can go ahead and do this. That also edits, sweet. So last thing we need to do is the delete. So let's go ahead and get the delete button and then we'll go ahead and wrap up everything. So let's go back to comments, fill out our last function here of our delete. And that would be this pattern right here. Oh, there we go. Oh, here it is. So let's go ahead and follow this pattern here for our delete. So it'll be const delete comment. We just need to pass in the ID when we're calling this function. And what we are going to do is that it will be another Axios call, match it up with the routes. It's this one right here. So that will be delete. And that one will be your slash API slash topics slash your topic ID, which is going to be topic ID slash comments, and then slash the ID of the one that we are deleting. And that's all we need to do there. And following the pattern here, let's go ahead and do our then and catch. So with the response coming back, we are going to go ahead and do a set comments. And that will be comments.filter. And we are going to delete this into the front end. So with the comment, I'm going to filter them through. We got to check all of the comments references, each one of them as C, and then C.ID is not the one that we are deleting. That's the one we are filtering. So this will go ahead and filter our comment that we are deleting. So that's what I have here. Then we are going to pass that down one more level at a time from our comments into our comment list. So delete comment will come from our comment list. And then here it is here. So then I am going to go ahead and do our delete comment within our comment list here. And then all I need to do here is to pass it to my singular comment. And that will go ahead and work there. So here's my comment list. And then the final destination is going to be our delete comment here. And that will go ahead and be on this button right here. So this one will be our on click button. With our on click button, we are then going to go ahead and call this function with our ID. And we only want to do it when we are clicking the button. That's why we have the anonymous function here. So let's see if this works. Let me do top to bottom. This is why I added on the top. And here is the bottom button there. And once we have that, that should go ahead and delete. So let me go ahead and delete this and delete this. And it looks like all of our CRUD actions work for our comment. So we're able to create something. We're able to view all of them in a single element. We're able to edit it. I'm going to just say check. Oh, Jack. I do not agree. Submit. And then you can also edit, which we just did, and then delete. So we have that at every 3 levels. So this is what I have for each file. So I'll scroll from top to bottom. So here is my comments. Here is my comment list. Here is my comment singular, comment form. And then we also touch within our app.js. We added this line so it can be on its own page. And then inside of topic here. So we added the link here and then the link here. So something that you should take a look at is that compare your topics to your comments, because each of those components, like their comment singular, should look very similar to your topic singular, right? Because they are having the same type of relationship, because it is a parent to child relationship. So that's why our form will look similar. The list would also look similar. So be sure to take a look at those and kind of see the similarities and differences, because that will really help you try to understand and see how the flow is going to be working. So that's something that I really recommend you all to do. So with everything that we did so far, we are actually done with our Reddit project. So we did all of our initial project steps, as well as going through everything with the first model, second model, third model. If we have another model, we just do the exact same thing. So we have a fourth model, we'll just do the models, controllers, routes, and then the CRUD actions for all of the views there. So that is what we will go ahead and stop for. What we are going to do next is to go ahead, and if you're done with this project, you can go ahead and delete the node modules inside of the client folder. So that way it will save up on space, and then you can stop the server with Control-C. And then let's go ahead and push this up into our GitHub. So that will be a git add, git commit. We'll just say comment front end done, front end CRUD done, and do a git push origin main. And that's it. Again, be sure to watch this multiple times. If you have any questions, please let me know. Feel free to ask me, or even Michael if you want to ask him as well. And if you want to take a look at all my code, I do have it pushed up into my GitHub. There is going to be a link under the video, so you can kind of take a look at all of my code and see there. If you do have any errors, double check my files with what is on GitHub with your files to see if they're matching up. If they are matching up and you're still getting errors, try to see if there's something else that might be in a different file. And after that, if you still can figure it out, then we can take a look at it while you're having errors there. So Reddit should be all good to go. This is the final product. I am going to convert and paste this video inside of the React as views here, and that will be the final part. But yeah, if you don't have anything else, I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.